Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Enterprise Products Partners.
Okay.
Ticker symbol EPD.
All right.
A major player in the midstream energy space.
Yeah.
Now,
So
EPD has been making waves in the market,
for sure.
and we're here to kind of break down what's behind their recent performance.
What's interesting here is that EPD's stock performance is a bit of a window into the energy sector as a whole.
Okay.
And they've been telling a compelling story lately.
So let's dive right in. EPD's stock price has fluctuated between 26.12 and 34.63 over the past year.
Wow.
As of January 17, 2025, it was trading near its high point at 33.57.
Okay.
What I find intriguing is that steady climb.
Yeah.
We saw gains of 18.24% in 2022,
Right.
then 17.74% in 2023, and a significant jump of 28.01% in 2024.
Yeah.
And those numbers really highlight consistent growth,
Yeah.
which is something investors love to see.
For sure.
Before we get too deep into the specifics, though,
Yeah.
can you give us a quick rundown on what exactly the midstream energy sector is?
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be helpful for listeners
Yeah.
who might not be familiar with all the nuances of the energy industry.
Of course. I know some of our listeners might be thinking midstream sounds like a salmon swimming upstream. Help us out here.
Well, it's definitely a vital part of the energy journey.
Yeah.
Think of it this way.
Okay.
You turn on your lights,
Yeah.
and electricity magically appears.
Right.
But there's a complex system at work behind the scenes.
Okay.
The midstream sector is like the central nervous system
Okay.
connecting production to consumption.
Okay.
EPD, for example, owns and operates the pipelines, storage facilities, and processing plants that transport oil and natural gas from where it's extracted to refineries and ultimately to consumers.
They're a crucial link in that whole energy supply chain.
So they're essentially ensuring the smooth flow of energy.
Yeah.
And their recent stock performance suggests they're doing a pretty stellar job at it.
Yeah.
But there's always more to the story, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious about the factors driving this growth,
Yeah.
especially for long-term investors. What should we be paying attention to?
You're spot on.
Okay.
Past performance is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
One thing that really stands out to me about EPD
Yeah.
is their commitment to returning value to shareholders.
Okay.
They've been consistently increasing their dividends and buying back their own stock,
Right.
which are strong signals in the investment world.
And they've just announced a dividend increase to 0.535 per unit for the fourth quarter of 2024.
Wow.
That's almost a 4% jump from last year.
That's right.
Plus, they repurchased $63 million worth of their own stock in Q4 2024 alone, part of a whopping $219 million buyback program for the entire year.
Right.
That definitely sends a message.
It does. It's like they're saying, we believe in our future and we're willing to put our money where our mouth is. Buybacks can indicate that a company thinks its stock is undervalued.
Right.
And it can also boost the value of the remaining shares, benefiting existing shareholders.
That's a fantastic point.
Yeah.
And it makes me even more curious about their financials.
Yeah.
But even with this positive momentum,
Okay.
EPD's stock price dipped 7.88% over the past 4 weeks.
Oh.
Doesn't that seem a bit contradictory to the overall trend?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Should investors be hitting the panic button?
That's a great question
Yeah.
and a perfect example of why it's so important to understand the concept of short-term volatility.
Okay.
The market can be fickle
Right.
with fluctuations that don't always reflect the underlying strength of a company.
So it's more like a temporary blip, not necessarily a sign of trouble brewing.
Exactly.
Okay.
There are always external factors at play,
Right.
from general market sentiment to industry-specific news and even global events.
Yeah.
Zooming out and looking at the bigger picture is crucial.
Okay.
Right now, forecasts predict a target price of around 33.53 by the end of this quarter and 32.74 by the year's end.
Okay.
This suggests a relatively stable outlook, perhaps with a slight decline, but nothing drastic.
Yeah.
Of course, these are just projections, and the market is full of surprises.
Right. Forecasts are a bit like weather predictions. Sometimes they're spot on, and sometimes you get caught in the rain.
Right.
So with all that in mind,
Sure.
what should investors be watching closely as we approach EPD's fourth quarter 2024 earnings announcement, on February 4th, 2025.
Right.
What are the key insights that can help us decipher their financial health?
That earnings report is going to be a goldmine of information. So it's smart to be prepared for a company like EPD, which is heavily involved in the midstream energy sector. You'll want to pay close attention to a few key performance indicators.
Okay, give us the cheat sheet.
Sure.
What should we be looking for?
One crucial metric is their pipeline throughput.
Okay.
That's essentially the volume of oil and gas they're transporting.
Right.
Higher throughput generally translates to higher revenue.
Got it.
You'll also want to examine their operating margin,
Okay.
which tells us how efficiently they're managing expenses.
Right.
And of course, you can't forget about distributable cash flow,
Yeah.
the lifeblood of those dividends we were talking about earlier.
So pipeline throughput,
Yeah.
operating margin,
Yes.
and distributable cash flow.
Uh-huh.
Got it. These are the vital signs to monitor
Yeah.
when EPD releases their earnings report.
Precisely. These numbers paint a picture of their operational efficiency
Right.
and whether they're on track to achieve their financial goals. After all, informed investing is all about understanding the data and making decisions based on a clear picture of the company's performance.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Those are great points to consider, and I'm sure our listeners are taking notes. But let's zoom out a bit and consider the broader context.
Yeah.
What are some external factors that could influence EPD's stock price moving forward?
That's where things get really interesting. We can't analyze EPD in a vacuum.
Right.
The energy sector is dynamic and influenced by global trends. One major factor is the overall health of the energy sector itself. Global demand for oil and natural gas plays a huge role, and that demand is constantly being shaped by things like economic growth, geopolitical events, and even weather patterns, believe it or not.
So it's not just about EPD managing their pipelines effectively.
Right.
They're also at the mercy of these larger forces that can impact energy demand and prices. It's like they're sailing in a vast ocean.
Yeah.
And those global currents can really affect their course.
Yeah. Exactly. And speaking of navigating those waters, another critical factor is the regulatory environment. The energy industry is heavily regulated, and shifts in government policies can have a significant impact on companies like EPD. For instance, new regulations aimed at reducing carbon emissions could potentially reshape their operations and profitability.
That's a crucial point. We're seeing increasing emphasis on sustainability and transitioning to cleaner energy sources. How do you see these trends playing out for EPD in the long run?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The energy landscape is evolving, and EPD, like all players in this space, will need to adapt while they have a strong foundation. There are undeniable challenges ahead.
It sounds like EPD has to strike a delicate balance.
Yeah.
They need to capitalize on the current demand for traditional energy sources while also preparing for a future that might look quite different.
Right.
What are your thoughts on their strategic positioning in this evolving landscape?
From what I've observed,
Okay.
EPD seems to be taking a proactive approach. Okay.
One of their key strengths is their diversified portfolio of assets. They're not solely reliant on crude oil pipelines, for instance. They're involved in transporting and processing a range of energy products, including natural gas, natural gas liquids, refined products, and even petrochemicals. This diversification helps mitigate risk and provides flexibility as the energy mix evolves.
So they're spreading their bets, so to speak.
Exactly.
It's like having a diversified investment portfolio, not putting all your eggs in one basket. That seems like a wise strategy in such a dynamic market.
Absolutely. And diversification isn't their only advantage. They also have a strong track record of operational excellence. They've consistently delivered strong financial results and earned a reputation for reliability and efficiency. Those qualities will become increasingly important as the energy industry faces greater scrutiny and competition.
That makes a lot of sense. A company that can consistently deliver results and adapt to new challenges will be well positioned for the future.
For sure. But with all these moving parts, global energy demand, regulatory changes, the shift towards cleaner energy, it could feel overwhelming for investors.
It's definitely a lot to process. But that's why it's so important to do your homework, stay informed, and understand the risks and opportunities involved. Investing isn't about predicting the future with perfect accuracy. It's about assessing the landscape, evaluating companies like EPD, and making calculated decisions based on the best available information.
Well said. For our listeners who are eager to learn more about EPD and delve deeper into their financials, Where would you recommend they go for further research?
Okay.
What resources do you find most valuable?
I always suggest starting with the company itself.
Okay.
EPD's investor relations page on their website is a treasure trove of information. You'll find financial reports, presentations, news releases, and all sorts of insights straight from the source. Beyond that,
Yeah.
financial news websites and reputable investment research platforms are great for getting different perspectives and analyses.
Right.
And of course, consulting with a financial advisor is always a good move if you're looking for personalized guidance tailored to your specific investment goals.
Fantastic. Those are all excellent starting points for our listeners. We'll be sure to include some helpful links in our show notes as well. Now, before we wrap up,
Okay.
I have one more question for you. We've talked a lot about the numbers, the trends, and the strategic landscape. But I'm curious about your overall perspective on EPD's future.
Sure.
What do you think are the biggest challenges and opportunities that lie ahead?
That's a great question, and it's something I think a lot of people in the energy industry are wrestling with. As we've discussed, the world is undoubtedly moving towards cleaner energy sources. That transition will have a profound impact on companies like EPD, which are heavily invested in traditional fossil fuels.
So it sounds like the elephant in the room is figuring out how to navigate this energy transition successfully.
Yeah.
How do you see EPD approaching this complex challenge?
Well, one thing working in their favor is that they're not starting from scratch. They already have a diverse portfolio of assets, as we discussed, which gives them some flexibility to adapt to changing market conditions. They're not solely dependent on crude oil pipelines. They're involved in natural gas liquids, and even petrochemicals, which could play a role in the transition to a lower carbon future.
So they have some options and aren't entirely tied to the fate of one particular energy source. But I imagine this transition will still require significant adaptation and investment.
Absolutely. There will be challenges.
Right.
They might need to invest in new technologies, adapt their infrastructure, and potentially even explore new business models. It won't be easy or cheap, but their track record of operational excellence and financial strength gives them a solid foundation to work from.
It sounds like EPD's future is a mix of potential and uncertainty.
Yeah.
What other factors do you think will be crucial to their success in the years to come?
One thing that will be critical is their ability to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to innovation. The energy industry is ripe for disruption, and companies that can embrace new technologies and find ways to operate more sustainably will be the ones that thrive.
So they need to be agile, adaptable, and willing to embrace change. It's not just about managing the present, it's about anticipating the future and positioning themselves accordingly.
Exactly. Another key factor will be their ability to maintain strong relationships with regulators and policymakers. The energy industry is heavily regulated, and companies that can navigate those complexities effectively will have a significant advantage.
It sounds like EPD's success will depend on a combination of strategic decision-making, operational excellence, and a willingness to embrace the evolving energy landscape.
That's a great summary. It's a dynamic time for the energy industry, and EPD is a company to watch closely. They have a lot of strengths, but they also face some significant challenges. It will be fascinating to see how they navigate this complex and evolving terrain.
It certainly sounds like EPD's journey is far from over, and their story will continue to unfold as the energy landscape evolves. But before we wrap up our conversation today, let's take a moment to recap the key takeaways for our listeners who are considering EPD as a potential investment.
A recap is always a good idea. Let's distill those key insights.
All right, so first and foremost, EPD was a standout performer in the stock market. Their share price has shown impressive growth over the past few years, and they're currently trading near their 52-week high.
Right, and a big part of their success can be attributed to their strong position in that essential midstream energy sector. They own and operate a vast network of pipelines and infrastructure that's crucial for transporting oil and gas, like the veins and arteries of the energy world.
I love that analogy. It really paints a vivid picture. And another factor that stood out was their commitment to rewarding shareholders. They've been steadily increasing their dividends and buying back their own stock, which shows confidence in their future prospects.
Absolutely. Those are positive signals for investors. But it's crucial to remember that no investment is without risk. Even the most successful companies can experience short-term fluctuations, and EPD is no exception.
Right, we talked about that recent dip in their stock price, which you explained was likely due to short-term market jitters. But you emphasize the importance of keeping a long-term perspective and not overreacting to every little blip on the radar.
Precisely. Investing is a marathon, not a sprint, and focusing on the fundamentals is key. And when it comes to EPD, those fundamentals appear quite strong. They've got that diversified portfolio of assets, a track record of operational efficiency, and that commitment to delivering value to their shareholders.
But as we discussed, they're also facing some significant challenges, especially as the world shifts toward cleaner energy sources. It will be fascinating to see how they adapt their business model and infrastructure to navigate this evolving energy landscape.
Indeed. The energy industry is in a period of transformation, and EPD's ability to adapt and innovate will be crucial to their continued success. It's a dynamic and complex situation with both opportunities and challenges on the horizon.
Well said. This has been an incredibly informative discussion. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today and shedding light on EPD.
The pleasure was all mine. I always enjoy diving into these topics and exploring the intricacies of the market.
And I'm sure our listeners have found it valuable as well. For those who are eager to delve even deeper into EPD and conduct their own research, we'll be sure to include some helpful links in our show notes.
Remember, folks, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to investing. So do your research, stay informed, and make those investment decisions with confidence.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And with that, we've come to the end of another episode of Investing Talk Podcast. Thank you for joining us on this look into the world of Enterprise Products Partners, ticker symbol EPD. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel more equipped to make informed investment decisions.
Until next time, happy investing, everyone.
And don't forget to subscribe to Investing Talk Podcast. Share this episode with your friends and leave us a comment with your thoughts or questions. We love hearing from you.